Hello, everybody. That was Giggle at the Ghosties, the Dax remix. I highly suggest you guys go check this guy out. Very cool stuff. To anybody that doesn't know who he is, that is. And so, right now, I've got a little extra time on my hands, and I wanted to get a video up again today. So, I will be doing the next part, hopefully finishing Chapter 4 of Rainbow Dash and Applejack Go to Whitecastle. So, here we go. There was only one more town Applejack and Rainbow Dash could pass through now from Ponyville to Canterlot. Tallahassee. Well, it was actually a city, but very small and simple compared to the likes of Manhattan or Philadelphia. There were maybe 6 different skyscrapers, one that resembled the Equestrian State Building in Manhattan, but considerably shorter. Still, as far as cities go, Tallahassee was bright and full of life when retaining the coziness of a smaller town like Rainville or Spearfield. This landmark settlement told the two Ponyvillian friends that they were only 45 minutes from their ultimate destination, but Rainbow, as ever, was still prone to complaining as she and Applejack wandered the streets of the city. "You'd think there would be a White Castle at least here," she bitched, which was now starting to grate on AJ's nerves. "I already told you, White Castle is one store family-owned joint. It ain't a chain chow shack." "You think we'll be able to find some sea salt here?" Rainbow wondered aloud, out of nowhere, as if she hadn't even heard Applejack, having no regard to some of the surprised looks that were thrown her way by those within earshot. "Rainbow!" Applejack snapped, alarmed. "Keep your mouth shut about that. Just 'cause it's a city don't mean no one's gonna be so open-minded about what we do." "Hey, you two," an oddly deep and guttural voice, I wish I had a deep and guttural voice, called to them. The two halted, turning to face the one who had spoken to them. They were faced with a rather heavy-set stallion with a whitish-gray coat, and a long, straight black mane and tail hair. He was pretty tall, but not exactly friendly-looking, but Applejack thought she had recognized his voice on the radio. But one look at Rainbow confirmed that he was famous by the look of utter disbelief on her face. You're... she uttered, trying to find words, but finding it difficult through her swimming mind. He remained silent and stared at Rainbow Dash with a creepy, dead look. AJ noticed there were 4 other stallions coming up behind him, all colorful characters by the looks of them. "You're Nathan Blast!" Rainbow finally proclaimed, a very fangirlish grin exaggerated on her features. And she cut herself off to grasp dramatically at the other stallions who now stood with him. "William Murder Muzzle!" This stallion had a very stupid-looking brown mane and a caterpillar mustache. He was all around ugly, actually, but obviously didn't value professional hygiene in many ways. His hooves were dirty and chipped. His muted and dull blue coat was stained with old, dried dirt. Even the leather vest over his chest was old and worn, But that was probably the only decent thing about him. "Oh, it's the drummer!" Rainbow continued to announce. This fellow's mane and tail were dyed a blood red and tied back in dreadlocks. The goatee surrounding his mouth matched the color of his hair. Wow, that's hard to say. Squizguar Squiggleding. This one was tall and lanky, with a pale tan coat and long blonde hair. He wore a gray chain around his neck with a pony skull pendant of the same color, and had a deadpan look on his face. Slung over his back was the black and white V-shaped Gibson Explorer guitar. "And Toki Warhoof," Rainbow squealed, ogling the final member of this group. His coat was a dark blue, and his mane and tail were a long brown. A matching Fu Manchu mustache adorned either side of his mouth. He also appeared to be the most fit member of the group, and was fairly muscular and, honestly, a little attractive to Applejack. "Hey," The first stallion that had spoken to them finally first spoke again. We overheard you two talking about sea salt before. We've never done this before, but he struggled, appearing to have trouble finding his own words. We want to share. Oh, we want to shore. Schore. I've never run into that before. The one named Murder Muzzle shouted with a very distinct lateral lisp. Oh, okay. We want ashore. The one named Murder Muzzle shouted with a very distinct lateral lisp. Huh? Rambo murmured, cocking an eyebrow as she stared at him. We want to get high as a kite. How much are you charging for sea salt? Oh, it's questioned with a thick yes! Yes! That's my place. We want to get high as a kite. How much are you charging for sea salt? Oh, it's questioned with a thick Wist-Trotson accent. Confused out of her mind, Applejack let out an indignant huff and snapped. All right. I don't have a darn clue what's going on here. She turned to her friend. Rainbow, who are these clowns, and why do they think we sell sea salt? Who are they? Rainbow repeated disbelievingly, as if Applejack had suggested they overthrow Celestia's seat of power and install their own tyrannical regime. This is Deathclop, Applejack, the most brutal, hell-firing, most blacker than the blackest black times infinity death metal band in the world. Yeah, Squizguar agreed plainly. Pretty much. Blast second the same way, as if they were merely agreeing on what kind of pizza to order. Applejack looked at Rainbow, who was grinning back at her gaudily. Then she panned her view of the band, that looked back at her with either dead stares or deadpan glowers. Lovely bunch. Yeah, sure, Applejack lied unconvincingly. So anyway, we were going to what? Oh, right, this is the guy with the lisp. Yeah, whenever I see how this guy spells this stuff, I have no clue what he's trying to say. So are you gonna give us some sea salt or what? Murder Muzzle demanded shrilly, standing on his hind legs and flailing his arms like an impatient foal. We don't sell sea salt, Buster, Applejack said back sharply. He gave her a stricken look. What? Oh, that's horse shish. Shit. It's kind of hard to say. He hollered, stomping back onto his frontal legs again and pouting. Well, they're obviously hardcore enough to do sea salt, Blast pointed out, then looked to Rainbow. You two want to see some of our many groupies tonight? Oh, want to be some of our many groupies tonight? Before Applejack could even muster a venomous retort to such a disgusting invite, Rainbow answered for her. Do we? Oh, fuck no, Applejack screamed through with it. The band and her friend were taken way off guard. Applejack got in Rainbow's face and spat. Y'all can't go and be a slut with these Inuits. Y'all can go and be a slut with these Inuits. But I'm gonna head to Canterlot and get me some grub. I might even have the decency to wait till y'all show up again to hang. But the more time I spend with you, the more it seems apparent that you're really not the element of loyalty. With that, Applejack brushed by a thunderstruck Rainbow and cantered away. Rainbow stared after her a moment. Then a boiling rage rose in her belly and heated up her emotional brain sectors to a red hot. Well, fuck you, Applejack. You always gotta get pissy when I try to have a good time. Well, Rainbow had quickly ran out of words, but still had a considerable amount of anger she had to do something with. And the sight of Applejack continuing to canter away, completely ignoring her, made Rainbow act without thinking. Grabbed a trash can bag from out of a nearby trash bin on the sidewalk, she lifted the bag, spun in the air, and hurled it at Applejack. She didn't even know what hit her until the old food and used paper bags, cups, and takeout food trays spilled all over her. That caused Applejack to halt indeed and cringe, and Rainbow allowed herself a wry smirk. Oh, shit, Murder Muzzle cackled. Clean up on aisle 6. Yeah, I keep doing that wrong. Oh, shit, Murder Muzzle cackled. Clean up on aisle 6. Applejack made no reaction, though. She only brooded with her head lowered, stock still, as if she were an animate statue, unmindful of the stares she received from other ponies on the entire sidewalk, and even some from across the street. It was at this point Rainbow realized she had gone too far, and her grin faded into a disbelief at her own actions. No, going too far was an understatement. This was outright betrayal. Behind her, Murder Muzzle continued to yowl like a 10-year-old laughing at mom and cock jokes. Applejack moved again, this time walking at a slower gait, still away, her face hidden by her Stetson. Wow, that was really brutal, Squeeze Guar remarked. I forget which one has the the Wisconsin accent. I forget which one it is. I'll guess it's this one. That's what you get for being a buzzkill. Even though that was really a Canadian accent. I do what I can. Oh, it's stated indifferently. So anyway, Rainbow Kid, want to get laid? Oh, hold up. Squeeze Guar chuckled with a shake of his head. That is not how you does it. Not about to admit to herself she was wrong again, Rainbow turned away from Applejack's lonesome figure. And what do you know? Okay. No. Wrong move. Oh well. Lonesome figure and smiled at the bandmates again. Hey, I'm not that easy, you know. I mean, I am an element of harmony, and the only pony to do a sonic rainbow. Oh, neato. I knows you. You's that supermare Rainbow's Dash, Warhoof proclaimed. A child, so he's got like a Chicago accent then? A childish grin and look of admiration on his face as he looked up at Rainbow Dash, at Rainbow as she hovered above them. Oh, wait. Oh, wrong person. Glad some pony in this old band knows a thing or two, she scoffed teasingly. Wow. I think we met someone with ego as big as our own, as ours, finally. Blast chuckled. Squeeze Guar notes joining in. It's Wells deserved, ego. Sonic Rainbooms are hard as fuck, Squeeze Guar stated, not even bothering to hide his wing boner anymore as he looked at Rainbow. I tried so many times when I was a colt. Ah, that's right. You're still the fastest guitar player in the world. Rainbow praised. Yeah, I know, that's a lot, he said back casually. I know that's a lot. Whatever. Can we get back to the hotel already? Murder Muzzle grunted, his impatience gone suddenly. I want, wait. Oh, okay then. I want some flank to rub up against. Yeah, I could go for some of that too, Squeeze Guar agreed. You coming with us? Blast questioned Rainbow. No damn way I'd miss a chance to hang with Deathclop, she returned with fervor. The Royal Suite was the most grandeur room in the entire five-star hotel. Of course it was. Otherwise it wouldn't be called royal. The den was large and open, with a multitude of finely crafted couches. The large windows provided a wonderful view of the city below, and the nighttime landscape beyond the collection of streets and buildings. There was an extravagant bar at one end of the room, Sitting on one of the stools with a glass of bourbon on the bar surface in front of him, a suited stallion with a pale tan coat sat. His mane was blond and cut evenly, hanging around his head save for his face. But what took Rainbow by surprise as she took a good look at him, while the other band members wandered around the room with groupies of their own, was that the stallion had these odd steampunk eye goggles covering his eyes. In fact, as she studied him, she realized they were his eyes. These glowing green irises seemed to be fully functioning and relaying what they saw into his brain. Oh, that is awesome. He wasn't looking directly at her, but suddenly only one of his eyes turned its iris on her. Whoa. She gasped and looked away, a little freaked out. She had heard of that kind of device being applied to blind people, where they removed the blind eyes and replaced them with those devices. But it was extremely expensive and somewhat controversial, due to their outright creepiness. Trying to ignore that stallion, she looked around at the other band members. Squeeze Guar was surrounded by mares, sensually leaning against him and rubbing him while he sat back on a couch. Blast was with Warhoof and Oates and their own groupies, while the unsurprisingly companionless Murder Muzzle was shaking and kicking a pinball table that was giving him a hard time. And by hard time, it is meant he is losing fairly at no fault of the machine itself. But he spat and cursed at the machine and accused it of being defective and homosexual male prostitute. Rainbow's eyes quickly flattened as she sighed. So bored, was her remark of the party. Ahem, some pony said behind her. She turned her head to see another stallion in a business suit was watching her, a suited assistant beside him. Though he wore an executioner's mask over his head, the same all clopatiers any given Death Clop employee wore when they were at work. Rainbow Dash, I presume? He said to her in a mild but very curt, businesslike tone. Yeah, that's me. She sighed again, rather surprised she was bored at a party with Death Clop. Interesting. You should happen to be here. I assume you're a fan of Death Clop? The man asked. The music, yeah. Everything else about them? She gazed around in unimpressive sights one more time before finishing. Not so much. Huh. Yes, they can be rather inconsiderate of guests, he stated, stepping beside her. I am their manager, by the way. Huh? Was Rainbow's plain remark. What about Creepy Eyes over there? She glanced at the stallion by the bar again. He seemed content to just work on his drink. Ah, he assists them with recording. A very efficient and no-nonsense fellow. My kind of guy. To be honest, he's like me. One of the few ponies on this earth to be able to handle the task of managing Death Clop. Are they really hard to manage? I've heard stories. A lot of them are crazy to be true. Rainbow remarked. Yes, a lot of them are. A lot of them are in fact true. However, the one with that troll in that other country? True indeed. 1 second.
Who are you talking to?
I'm doing the recording.
Lewis, have you finished your driver's ed?
Yes, it's on a Google Doc.
Have you packed for your weekend?
Yeah.
You know, traders are really strict about leaving on time.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Where was I? Wow. Okay, so true indeed. Wow. Still bored. Rainbow sighed once more, thinking about Applejack. What the hell was she doing here? Before any more could be said, Murder Muzzle decided to approach Rainbow Dash, in a manner he may have considered suave, but looked more forced than a piece of constipated shit after eating 5 pounds of cheese in a single sitting. Yo, Rainbow, he said to her in a just as forced, suave voice. He got uncomfortably close to her, and she could smell the decay of old dirt and food bits of off his body. She would have rather been attacked with a garbage bag than in the same way she had done to Applejack. Guilt was really starting to tear her insides apart, and anger at herself. William, the manager spoke up, I'm not sure if you know, but Rainbow Dash is an element of harmony. She's highly favored by Princess Celestia. It would be wise if you behaved yourself around her. Lighten up. I'm just making small talk, Murder Muzzle shouted at him loudly, making Rainbow grit her teeth and fold her ears down to muffle that annoying voice of his. Yeah, you should behave yourself around me, whether the princess favors me or not, she told him dangerously. Don't say I didn't warn you, the manager added. Aw, come on, Rainbow, don't be like that, Murder Muzzle said again in his seductive and smooth voice. His oh-so-sumptuous voice. Why don't we head to my room for a chat, huh? That sound good? No, actually, I need to get back to my friend, Rainbow Dash retorted, fed up with this. Just as she turned away, Murder Muzzle burst out. Who gives a fuck about that country slut? You threw trash at her. Crack. The sound of Rainbow's hind hoof connecting with Murder Muzzle's jaw filled the room, halting the party immediately, taking everyone off guard, save for the manager, who didn't look surprised at all. Without another word, Rainbow galloped out of the room, determined to find Applejack. Fuck Sea Salt, fuck Whitecastle, she needed a friend. Murder Muzzle groaned at his manager's hooves, clutching his broken jaw. Well, I warned you, he said, pitiless. Get a cloppeteer to fuck her up, she managed through his broken, Yeah? Gotta finish this.
How much time do you need?
I don't know.
Well, you've got a lot at risk here.
Right. He managed through his broken mandible. Like I said, element of harmony and highly regarded by the princess. Same goes for her friend. That was Applejack, I believe, from what I saw earlier. Shit. How much more do I have? God, I really want to finish this in one video. Okay. Rainbow looked around wildly at the block as she trotted down the sidewalk, trying to spot Applejack. It shouldn't be too hard to spot her. She had to be the only bright orange pony with a Stetson in the entire city. Rainbow even caught a glimpse of it inside a building. She pressed her face up to the window of a brightly lit pub. Sitting at the bar itself, Applejack had a tall glass of some sort of brew sitting before her, half empty. Her hat was tilted over her head, shadowing her morose face. Rainbow felt shittier the longer she looked at her. Would she ever consider speaking to her? Slowly, Rainbow entered the bar. The sound of laughter and cheering filled the air. A group of mares and stallions were at one corner of the room, listening to a radio telecaster describe the happenings of a sports game. It was obvious the team these ponies wanted to win were winning by the level of excitement in their voices. Applejack had her own isolated spot in the bar, where the barkeeper kept by her, looking slightly sour. He probably wanted to be closer to the radio than tending to this wretched mare. Rainbow cautiously took a seat beside Applejack. The other mare made no regard for Rainbow's existence. She just continued to stare at the grainy wood beneath the varnish of the bar. You want anything? The barkeep asked. Nah, Rainbow said back lowly. He stifled a snort and wandered away, finally deciding to just leave them and listen to the game. Generally alone now, Rainbow and Applejack continued to sit in silence. Y'all were never good at apologizing, AJ suddenly remarked, tilting her hat up a little and sipping her drink. Sometimes I'm not good at being a friend either. Nope, the other agreed flatly, sounding like her older brother just then. Rainbow Dash would have smiled at the unconscious similarity if this were a lighter moment. No, she agreed quietly, fidgeting in her seat. Y'all have done some pretty lousy things. We all have one time or another. But you crossed the line back there. One that I thought you'd know not to cross. She took another drink of her mug, while Rainbow tried to think of something to say. Her mind was blank. The question is, Applejack went on, how are you going to make up for it? Rainbow scratched her muzzle, an idea forming in her mind. It was ballsy, and certainly a leap of faith. More dangerous than all of her aerial stunts combined with a sonic nuclear rain boom. Her mind made. She stood on the floor on her hind legs, pulled back a foreleg, and thrust her hoof into Applejack's cheek. What? Her mind made. She stood on the floor on her hind legs, pulled back her foreleg, and thrust her hoof into Applejack's cheek. So she punched her. The other mare let out a shock of pain as she was knocked violently from her stool into another one, knocking the rest of them down in a domino effect. All eyes were on them now. Interesting move. Bewildered, Applejack looked up at Rainbow Dash as he smirked back at her. I remember once you were so angry at your cousin Chelmsford, said Rainbow, standing over the stupefied Applejack, that the two of you got into a brawl. You broke his nose, he knocked out one of your molars. Then, by the end of the day, you two were laughing and drinking together. What did he do? Oh yeah, he got wasted and said some nasty things to Applebloom. Yeah, he sure as hell deserved a broken nose, the poor filly. But he made up with you and Applebloom. Of course, she didn't brawl, but that would have been funny if she did. Rainbow was cut off in mid-ramble when one of Applejack's hind hoofs connected with her jaw, sending her in the air a few feet. The wind was knocked out of her when she landed on her back. As Rainbow gasped and crawled back to her hooves, Applejack growled back. You know, when y'all commit a wrong against a friend, it's usually the wronged that throw the first punch. Ah, whatever, as long as we get this shit going, Rainbow said back, grinning again as she wiped a trickle of blood from her chin. All right, boomed the bartender as he stood between them. I don't want this shit in my bar. Out! Two front hooves impacted either side of his face. Pinned there for a moment by both hooves, he crumpled to the ground unconscious when the two mares drew back their arms. With him out of the way, the two mares now charged each other and began a brutal onslaught on each body. A buck from Applejack gave Rainbow a sprained wing. A punch from Rainbow gave Applejack a black eye. A tooth lost from Rainbow, a bruise over Applejack's cutie mark. They wouldn't be pretty when this was over. Applejack, after knocking Rainbow in the head and dazing her for a moment, grabbed a broken stool leg and struck her again in the forehead. Rainbow cried out when a scrape of flesh left her head. When she stumbled into the bar, she espied Applejack's beer mug and grabbed it. After finishing its contents in a single gulp, she about faced the bar in AJ's direction and flung the glass mug at her friend. The glass missed her head, thankfully, but a can of cannibalistic worms was opened when it knocked her hat off. What? But a can of cannibalistic worms was knocked open when it knocked her head off. Okay, then. Oh, it is on, Applejack crowed and charged Rainbow. But the other mare knew she had succeeded in her apology by the excited grin that had finally dominated Applejack's face. Rainbow leaped into the air with a flap of wings, causing Applejack to careen headlong into the bar, her head breaking right through it. The other side, patrons cringed and watched in horror as she removed her bloodied face from the hole in the bar. Apparently she had crashed into a stock of wine glasses. Geez, you okay? Rainbow asked, seeing a few shards of glass still lodged in her flesh. It seemed her black eye was now cut as well. Y'all know we're gonna be even now, since you just use your wings, Applejack called up to her. Oh, snap, Rainbow murmured, just as AJ leaped into the air and gripped her tail between her teeth. With a yelp, Rainbow was pulled closer to the ground, but she fought back furiously with the beating of her wings. But that wasn't enough to thwart the strong Earth Pony's attempt to do a number on the Pegasus. Applejack began to spin in place, and Rainbow Dash yelled in fright as the spinning sped up and momentum grew stronger against the struggling wings. In the end, her fighting wings would backfire when AJ at last let go and rocketed her into the giant mirror behind the bar. Rainbow flew herself into it by accident. The glass shattered with a deafening crash, and the shards dug into Rainbow's skin. One particularly large piece was ground right into her shoulder blade, cutting right into the bone of her joint. She fell to the ground in a quivering heap, now just as bad as Applejack, if not worse. She was too weak to get up now, no matter how much she forced her muscles to cooperate. Rainbow just gave up and laid where she had landed, panting and bleeding profusely. She could only start so much when Applejack hopped over and looked down at her, frowning. Guess we're even now. Good Celestia, let me help you to the hospital. Ugh, was Rainbow's only pained reply. Applejack quickly gripped the shard in Rainbow's shoulder with her teeth and removed it, making Rainbow hiss in pain. I'll quit bitchin', Applejack teased as she helped Rainbow to stand and lean on her. Screw you, AJ. You were the one to run into glass. You threw me into it. That's a little more than throwing garbage. And there goes the sincerity, Applejack sighed as she rolled her eyes, helping Rainbow out of the bar, leaving the patrons baffled and unsure of what to do. Well, I suppose it's the initial thought that counts. Good thing I'm a Pegasus. Guess I'll be off this leg for a while. Rainbow chuckled weakly. But y'all got a sprained wing, too, Applejack pointed out. Rainbow stopped, forcing Applejack to stop. She blinked, as if she didn't want to believe what she just heard. So not only will I be grounded for the rest of the night or more, she murmured, staring forward with wide eyes, I'll be grounded with a hurt leg? Yeah, I think that's what the doctors will say. Applejack answered with a forced, nervous grin. Rainbow plopped onto her haunches and raised her arms into the air, screaming to the sky, No! And there we go. I was hoping I would be able to finish this. This was kind of rushed, but to anybody who hung through that, thank you very much. So, yeah. That is the end of the video.